School union boss Randi Weingarten had direct access to the director of the CDC cell phone, and she would just text her, call her. We don't really know what was going on. We do know that these two people were colluding to lock down kids back during the pandemic era, and that caused a lot of problems. And so when you have the leader of the school unions and the director of the CDC having these backroom conversations, Congress oftentimes has questions about that, and they sent a letter over to the director of the CDC demanding to know more. They want to know. But if you're not familiar with Randi Weingarten, she is the teachers union boss. A little bit more about her. The New York Post, their editorial board, wrote an absolute banger of a piece talking about what a woman this is. They say it's clear in this case that the U.S. government is putting the fox in charge of the henhouse. The American Federation of Teachers honcho, called Randi Weingarten, just got named to the Department of Homeland Security and the School Safety Advisory Committee. Amazing. Then, immediately on the heels, this came fresh on the heels of news about how badly school lockdowns cost America's kids. Weingarten pushed these relentlessly and wanted them extended and extended and extended. Last week, the final release of the National Assessment of Educational Progress from 2022 is universally seen as the gold standard for measuring learning, showed that 13-year-olds in the U.S. had lost decades of progress in reading and math. Today's kids are doing worse than their parents in math and worse than their grandparents in reading. And while this causes our long-term, there's simply no question that a year or more of bogus remote learning triggered the drop from Randi. And all of these people were screaming, oh, it's about the kids. You're going to be killing your kids. Yes, we supported, they say, the closing of the schools this is from the New York Post. But as the weeks rolled on, evidence changed, but a lot of people continued to push the lockdowns. Some teachers were scared, but Randi Weingarten had just kept pushing for closures and closures and closures. And so the U.S. government wants to know now, was she working hand in hand with the CDC? Because Weingarten leads a huge group of teachers that delivers a ton of money to the Democrats. So we've got questions about this. From the House of Representatives, the Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, coming out of Congress, this letter went over to Rochelle Walensky, Center for Disease Control, June 28, 2023. The letter is being written and drafted, as we can see, by Brad Wenstrup, chairman of the subcommittee, and he's got some interesting excerpts. He says, Dear Walensky, thank you for your testimony not too long ago when you came before the Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic. Now, we appreciate your cooperation. Previously, as you know, on March 28th, we wrote to you regarding potential political interference from the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, specifically regarding the CDC's February 12th COVID reopening guidance titled Operation Strategy for K-12 Schools Through Phased Prevention. We sent you a letter, Walensky, but you failed to respond. And so again, on June 1st, we wrote to you regarding this issue. You have since only produced documents primarily consisting of those that have already been made public through Freedom of Information Act requests. They say that the Department of Health and Human Services seems like it's continuing its pattern of obstructing Congress by apparently only producing documents already made publicly available via the FOIAs. As a reminder, Walensky, FOIA does not apply to Congress. And so while negotiating your upcoming testimony, the department, apparently on your behalf, wrote that the negotiation was, quote, counterproductive to the subcommittee's broader dealings with the department. Interesting. So Congress sends a letter to DHS, which is where CDC is. They say, we need you to respond. CDC responds, no. This negotiation thing that you're asking us to do, this oversight thing, it's counterproductive to our broader dealings with you. And so Congress says, no. That's not how this works. It's kind of a threat, right? If you want Rachel to come in and testify, then that's going to be a big problem for you in the future. They said that obstruction will not be tolerated. The American people deserve transparency. The Select Subcommittee will continue to investigate and follow the facts with the goal of developing effective legislation and, if necessary, changes to the CDC. They say that during the Select Subcommittee hearing in April, Randi Weingarten, president of the American Federation of Teachers, it's like over 1 million, 1.6, 1.7 million teachers, it's huge. She testified to us that she had your direct line, Walensky. Here's the question. Do you have a direct number to Director Walensky? They asked that to Randi. Do I have Director Walensky's direct number? Yeah, that's the question. Yes, I have Director Walensky's direct number. So during a June 13th hearing, you also testified that you may have communicated with Weingarten. So Weingarten says, yeah, I talked to Walensky. Walensky says, you may have communicated with Weingarten via your personal cell phone, as well as your official government phone, and that you, quote, imagine this communication was in furtherance of official business. I'm sure. So the conversation with Walensky says, do you maintain an official government and personal cell phone? Yeah, I do. Does Miss Weingarten have your official or your personal cell phone numbers, or both? I believe she has both. Have you ever exchanged text messages with Mrs. Weingarten? I have. And were these texts on your official or personal phones, or both? I would have to go back and check. It may be both. Were these text messages in furtherance of official business, or about the business of the CDC? She says, I would imagine. I would have to go back and look. So Congress says, great. Therefore, we are requesting the documents and the communications from your official and your personal cell phones, because you talked about official business on your personal cell phone. Not supposed to do that. Open records and those things that are responsive to our investigation. These communications are responsive to March and June requests, but the subcommittee is willing to prioritize the following as soon as possible, but no later than July. All phone records, including a log of incoming and outgoing calls and all incoming and outgoing text messages between Walensky and Randi. This request includes official and personal cell phones. Additionally, in accordance with the terms of the subcommittee's letter, we want information from the following people, including in-person transcribed interviews. One from Christopher Jones, Dr. Henry Walke, and Greta Massetti. They say the subcommittee has the authority to do all of this stuff. The rules give us the ability to investigate and make changes. And if you have any questions, give us a call. Otherwise, we expect the documents. Sincerely, your friend, Brad Wenstrup, chairman of the subcommittee. So it's pretty interesting to see that they're going after even some personal conversations. And the big question would be, what does Randi Weingarten have to do with health policy? Well, she leads a bunch of other teachers' unions. But were there surreptitious conversations happening behind closed doors? Were these two colluding with one another to keep the schools closed? Were they orchestrating and coordinating policy? Was Weingarten, who controls a massive amount of Democratic influence and money, pushing things a certain way? Or was it going the other way around? Many questions still need to be answered about what happened and how these people were involved in undermining all of our most cherished principles and causing some of the most egregious consequences for kids and for our entire society. Congress is looking into it, which is good news. We'll see if they get those records from CDC Director Walensky.